What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're going to be taking a look at Justice League versus the Fatal Five, another entry into the DC animated universe of movies. Uh, Justice League versus Fatal Five is connected to the old DC animated continuity that started with Batman the Animated Series, that led into the Justice League TV show, so on and so forth. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's talk about Justice League versus the Fatal Five. As all in all, I thought this was a really good movie. I liked it a lot. I got my issues with it here and there, but overall, this is joy. This is a lot of joy. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch. The animation is cool. It's a nice throwback to that old Justice League style animation. We get veteran voice actors like Kevin Conroy, Susan Eisenberg, and George Newbern, who played Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, respectively. So they're veterans of the DC universe, and they come back for this. Their performances are good. Kevin Conroy couldn't play a bad Batman if he tried. George Newbern's voice is how I imagine Superman talking. He gives him that classic Superman stature and presence. Susan Eisenberg, she's always been a very good voice for Wonder Woman, and she gives Wonder Woman that nurturing and compassion, but yet also commanding presence. It's a great blend. So those guys, they did fine as usual. But what I want to talk about are the new additions to the league. Now, my big problem with this is that we get the DC Trinity, but the surrounding members of the league, it's kind of like the Z team. You get Mister Terrific, you get Miss Martian, and they're okay for what they are, but they're not really strong members. But they do have they do have moments in this movie that make them good. I like the scenes between Mister Terrific and Superman. I thought they were pretty fun with one another, and I like Batman's little subplot with Miss Martian, where he's pretty much mentoring her and initiating her into the league itself. So that stuff's okay. But the real focus of this movie is on the characters of Thomas Keller, Starboy, and Jessica Cruz, who is the Green Lantern of this movie. And the movie really hinges on these two characters because they're pretty much the focal point of the of this movie because their storylines parallel with one another. So Thomas Keeler is from the 31st century and he goes back in time to stop this group called the Fatal Five. But instead of doing so, he kind of gets amnesia because he has to take certain medication that helps with his memory and stuff like that. But when he gets transported back, he forgets his memory, so pretty much everyone thinks he's crazy. And he gets sent off to Arkham after Batman, after a little run-in with Batman himself. And then we get Jessica Cruz, who is having nightmares because she was a survivor of a killing. Two people died, and she barely escaped with her life. And she's also a Green Lantern, so she's kind of struggling with her past while also trying to maintain her duty as a Green Lantern. So she's having a lot of conflict with herself, and I like it. It makes Jessica Cruz a very interesting character, and I like how she's handled for the most part. I thought they did a pretty good job with that, and I like how they paralleled her and Thomas's story because Thomas needs to find the limelight because the limelight is the only thing that can release the two members of the Fatal Five who are currently in prison, and he has to get to the limelight to protect the limelight because if the Fatal Five gets their hands on the limelight, which is the Green Lantern power ring, then of course they release their compatriots. Of course, at the end of the movie, they end up getting released because they take the limelight, and then mostly Jessica Cruz, defeats the Fatal Five. So that's the overall. So all that stuff's handled pretty well. Jessica Cruz's PTSD is handled pretty good, and Thomas Keller's the Starboy's character, he's handled pretty good, and I like the parallel within their storylines and how they look to each other to kind of to make themselves feel good. Cruz looks to Starboy looks at Cruz and considers her to be a hero because in his time, she is revered and on legendary status. And Cruz looks to Thomas because she appreciates because in her mind Thomas is a hero, especially at the end when he makes a sacrifice to save the Earth and the world itself. After the Fatal Five tried to destroy the sun with all the Green Lantern power that they've accumulated. So Starboy's story arc is handled pretty good. Jessica Cruz is handled pretty good. Like I said, they're the two focal points, and for the most part, they're good. They're good leads. They're really good. And you do have the other leaguers in there peppered throughout the movie. They give their own thing. Now let's go on to the Fatal Five for a little bit. Now all members of the Fatal Five I liked for the most part. The three that really stand out to me are the characters of Mono, the Persuader, and Thrak. I thought those three have really cool designs, and they have a little cool and have some cool scenes peppered throughout the movie itself. Mono is pretty much kind of like the leader. He's trying to release his pretty much his girlfriend, who he calls his Empress. Forgot her name already. And of course, in order to do that, they have to take the power ring, which they eventually do, and they release her. And so on and so forth. We get to our big climactic scene. So the Fatal Five's plot, it's okay for what it is. Their main objective pretty much is to get the power ring and to release their two compatriots. That's pretty much it. And it's what it needs to be. It's not overly complicated. It's easy to follow. There's nothing layered about it. It's very simple, straightforward, and I got no problems with that. Because when you're doing a movie like this, simple and straightforward is all you need. You don't need these overly complicated plots, because the story you're trying to tell isn't overly complicated to begin with. It's pretty straightforward, basic superhero stuff, and I enjoy it. Just give me good action scenes, give me good animation, give me good voice acting, which is what this movie does in spades. Like I said, I do got some problems with it here and there, mostly with the Z-Team League members. And even though I do like the stuff with Batman and Miss Martian, I would have liked to have seen some more scenes with her initiation process. And Cruz and Keller, they'd get the most amount of screen time. So since this movie's focused on them and they are solid leads, I don't have that much issue with those two as well. Those are my thoughts on Justice League versus the Fatal Five. At the end of the day, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's a good animated movie. I like the connective tissue that it has to the previous Justice League continuity from like the 90s and the early 2000s. Despite that this has mostly the Z-Team League members, at least they're entertaining and the voice acting's on point. And yep, that's it. That's all I got to say. 8 out of 10 for Justice League versus the Fatal Five. So, if you've seen this movie, let me know in the comment sections down below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I would like to know. Like this video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.